Hello everyone, welcome one and all to one of the only street circuits on the 2K World Cup season. Welcome to Long Beach here for this round of the 2021 Championship. My name is Connery Maddock. I'll be joined by Ewan O'Leary over the course of this broadcast to get these skip barbers going and racing around what is a very, very tight and twisty circuit. Ewan, we're all ready and raring to go, at least for qualifying in around about 5 minutes time. But this is a very unique challenge for these drivers out here today.
Yeah, unique is one word for it. Certainly there are many others to describe it as well, but blindingly difficult is probably the words I would use. Really, really tight and technical around this Long Beach circuit. Not one of these wide open slipstreaming fests that we're used to seeing at some of the previous rounds that we've had so far on the World Cup schedule. So yeah, it's going to be a very, very difficult race for all of these guys, and a very, very physical one. A race of attrition, you might be able to imagine.
Yeah, I would think so as well, as those walls do come up on you rather quickly here in this one. You can see where we are in the season, though, round number 6. These rounds have gone by pretty fast and furiously, if you ask me. We've had a lot of fun along the way, but once we're done here at Long Beach, we head to round number 7 at Summit Point. Those who are familiar with iRacing know that is a very popular rookie track, and again, there's also very tight and twisty, and the lap times come by very quickly indeed there. Then round number 8, we will head to the Land of the Rising Sun. We head to the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit, which is one of my favorite tracks in the motorsports. Then we head into the back end of the season, where for most of the tracks we do not know, and the drivers do not know, where we'll be going on any given week. So that is going to be interesting, and it's going to be potentially surprising to see if we get any curveballs thrown at us. But let's have a look at the rundown for today then. This is a double header event, so meaning that will be 2 races. Our sprint race, 6 laps in length to start us off. We get 1 fast repair, drive through every 15 incidents, no pit window in that race at all. Then we head to race number 2, 20 laps. The top 10 will be, well, the grid will be the top 10 from race 1, but reversed. Again, another fast repair and a drive through every 15 instants as well. These guys will have to pit during that race between lap number 8 and lap number 12. We've seen a good variety in pit stop strategy already so far this season, and with drivers coming down in early to try and get undercuts and track position, and drivers trying to go late to try and basically just run the fuel tanks dry and then get the short fuel for the end of the race. So I wonder what what strategy is going to come up on top this time around.
Yeah, absolutely, and arguably 2 weeks ago at the Hockenheim race, Benny Simonsen won the race through a pit stop strategy call, exactly like you're entering there, just going on something a little bit different, getting out of the battles maybe, that might be important. And I think around Long Beach, a circuit where it is one of the most difficult to overtake, normally we don't talk about difficult to overtake circuits in this series because it's so easy to overtake sometimes, and it's very exciting indeed, but it's quite hard around here. It's very narrow in places, and these guys are, I think, going to struggle just ever so slightly on occasion, so maybe a bit of pit strategy in that second race that will do them good. But yeah, it was a fantastic race a couple of weeks ago. Benny Simonsen taking the victory by nearly 6 seconds in the end, which was a pretty large margin in Skip Barber terms, but we might see something similar here at Long Beach, because it's a very tight and technical circuit, as I mentioned, and that long front straight is about the only place you can really slipstream up to the back of someone, so that's a lot of circuit for you to make the difference and pull away from anybody who's behind.
That is the most obvious opportunity, but I wouldn't put it past these guys to try and find somehow to go too wide through some other corners as well, because these guys are absolutely crazy and are certainly capable of racing in close proximity together. Here's the recap of the standings, though. Kane Halliburton leads with 331 points at this point in the season. Sam Keitert in second with Philippe Leber in third. Philip Hammer in fourth with Anthony Catt in fifth. So that's your top 5, but the positions behind are very close as well. Alexis Vico not too far away from Cat, and the fourth, Simon Edwards, only 1 point off of that 6th spot that Alexis Vico currently holds as well. Diogo Francisco in P8, Giuseppe Tellini in 9th, and Manuel Lucetta rounds out the top 10 in the points order. But of course, this series does include drop weeks, so if you have a bad round or you decide not to attend a round, then that score will be dropped from your total, but before the end of the season. So this is the running as it is now, without any drop weeks included, but just keep in mind that things might change coming into the latter portions of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's unlikely that the order will change completely on its head, but it may change around just a little bit. It's likely that Kane Halliburton would still be leading at this point, even with drop weeks involved, because he's just been having such a great season so far. He's the only driver to have actually taken more than one victory in the season so far. It's been quite a remarkable season, really. 8 races and 7 different winners, which is, it's been very entertaining for us, certainly. But as you can see there, it's a very, very difficult circuit. Somebody going for a bit of a half spin already in qualifying. These guys have only got one shot at this one, remember. And, if you screw up this lap, then that's it. You're going to be starting at the back at a circuit you really don't want to be.
Well, at least the good thing for that driver is that we are still in the very, final 15 seconds of practice right now. So it's not a huge problem in the grand scheme of things, but soon the session will tick down and we'll get that transition on over into the qualifying session. But you described it absolutely correctly, Ewan. It is only one lap that these drivers will get to get their qualifying done. It's basically sort of super cool sort of strategy here. You just get that one opportunity. That is it. If you mess it up, you get a 1x, you get your lap invalid, then you're going to be starting at the very, very back of the starting grid here today. That's why we only have around about 4 minutes to get this session done. It's because these guys only have one lap to do, and now they're already starting to come off of pit lane. Of course, this is lone qualifying, so drivers will be all alone out there on circuit for their qualifying laps. It just means they can't get impeded or benefit from the draft of any of the other competitors.
Yeah, that would be quite chaotic, wouldn't it, really, to see a Skip Barber session with the qualifying, with everybody together. It would be F1 at Monza times 10, really. It would be quite chaotic, so thankfully we don't have that problem, and these guys will be out on their own, just pushing as hard as they can, really. Getting as close to these walls as possible without touching them, because, these cars are not the most robust when you do hit the walls. You do want to stay off them, really, especially on a qualifying lap. That's what these guys are going to attempt to do, although they may not have much choice at certain parts. It's certainly going to be an important qualifying, though. I would argue maybe the most important of the whole season. It might be the most difficult circuit to overtake on throughout the whole calendar. Obviously, we don't know what some of the races are going to be yet, but you can't imagine there are many more tight and twisty circuits that these guys could possibly have, really. I'm not entirely sure how this is going to race just yet, whether there's going to be a lot of overtaking or whether it's going to be exceptionally difficult or not, but still, I would really much rather be at the front than at the back around a circuit like this.
Yeah, I certainly would as well. Same could be said really for any street circuit, but of course, given these cars are so small and the draft is so powerful at them, then maybe, just maybe, there might be a couple more opportunities to try and get past in these cars compared to something a little bit bigger like a GT3 or a Formula 1 car or anything like that. So anyway, we're coming towards the end of the vast majority of the outlaps here. Benny Simonson is the driver that we are riding on board with right now. Let's pull his current times up, so you'll see the timer start here in just a couple of moments' time once he comes across the start-finish line. There we go. So time is on the clock here for Benny Simonson as he negotiates this long run down in towards turn number 1. You got to be careful on the brakes into here because you can't swing out wide on that track end, on that corner entry there, because you have the pit lane, and also try and negotiate this very tight section through the fountain area. I'm always afraid that you're going to bang a wheel on the wall at some point there.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys do get scarily close, and that's a jump across the curbs as well, if ever I've seen one, going through the right hand of turn number 5 there into turn 6 and 7 right now, and to get close to that wall on the left hand side as you can right now as well. But Simonson not quite able to get that apex on the left hand side there. Let's hope that he can maybe nail this one on the right hand side here, which gives him a good run onto the back straight, and it's not a bad run from him, certainly, the race winner from 2 weeks ago. So this is not a bad lap so far. A couple of apexes missed, but you can't expect anybody to have a perfect lap in a situation like this.
Yeah, maybe in a normal qualifying session up over the curves, of course, the iRacing track limit quite lenient here, I would say, so they can take a lot of the curves out and not get punished with a on-off track instant point that invalidates their lap. But tidy through the final hairpin there for Benny Simonson. That's going to be one of the main conflict zones during the race as well. But Simonson with a drive to the line then. What's the time going to be? A 1:33.205. Good enough for pole position, at least provisionally at the moment. As you can see, the flurry of times come through as drivers complete their lap. That might just be enough there for Benny Simonsen to get through to the pole position. Here's Zingretti coming across the line. His time is only good enough for P16 out there on track right now. And so, well, one of the only drivers still out there that will be able to finish their lap, or not since time has expired, was Loris Amadeo. But that is how quickly qualifying comes and goes here in this series. Let's take a look then at your starting grid for race number 1 of the evening, the sprint race. Benny Simonsen lines up on the front row pole position, and Sam Kita joining him on row number 1 there as well. Brandon Hawk in P3 with Philippe Leber, P4, Philip Hammer, P5 with Remco Pleasure in P6. P7 goes to Anthony Katz, P8 goes to Joshua Dancy. Giuseppe Tellini lines up in 9th with Alexis Vico in 10th. Andrea Speziale in P11 with George Matuszynski in P12. Mark Sierra, P13, Simone Zamolo in P14. 15th goes to Chris McGowan, and Lorenzo Zingretti lines up in 16th. Efrem Pozzati, P17, with Daniele Fogarini in P18. The final cars in the starting grid here today will be Ronan Griffin, Loris Amadeo, and Daniele Camilleri right at the very back there, P21 for that driver at the very back of the field. So drivers taking themselves to the starting grid here. And, well, we're just a couple of moments away from getting the green flag here at Long Beach for this round of the 2K Skip Barber World Cup. It's going to be a little bit of a different race to what we're used to seeing here in this series, just due to the nature of the circuit here, but everyone just getting themselves ready now. We're minimum 30 seconds away, Ewan.
Yeah, just drivers getting up onto the grid right now and getting themselves prepared for what they might be about to see going into turn 1.
Let's take a look then. They're all ready, they're all prepared, and off they go now. We are green flag racing here at Long Beach in the 2K Skip Barber World Cup. The front row are absolutely neck and neck coming through this slight right-hand turn that consists of the pit straight here. Sam Keaton able to get himself ahead for now. He's got to run a speed here down in towards turn number 1. Benny Simonsen still on the inside though for turn 1. He might be able to get that position back. Up over the curb he goes. He's got himself a half a car length and now a full car length ahead by the time the fountain section arrives. And this is where everyone simply has to get single file. There's been an incident at the back though. Huge problems.
Loads of cars with damage and cars blocking the road as well. A couple of cars and one into the air, another spun around. Oh dear, Joshua Dancy was involved. As you can see, another 3 cars at least in behind. Ronan Griffin is involved and he's going to be turning around. A very shameful turnaround for him and a bit of a walk of shame, you might say, back to the pit lane. It was always supposed to happen down here in the first few corners of Long Beach. Let's take another look at that restart and let's try and piece together how on earth this happened, because it was always inevitable. We always expected it, and I'm afraid the inevitable has happened. Coming into turns 2 and 3, a car getting shunted over the fountain section there, and then it all begins and the road gets blocked from there and people left with nowhere to go.
Yeah, it's an absolute cluster there inside of the fountain section. I didn't quite see who was that car that got completely and utterly punted across the fountain there. I will have to wind it back to see exactly who that might have been. I'm guessing it may have been Mark Sierra here, since he seems to be far enough up the grid to be the driver that happened to. But let's just take another look in here. In through turn 1, turn 2 is fine. It's all gone wrong in the fountain section, and yes, it was Mark Sierra. Whoa.
On his own though, completely. I thought he actually got shunted there to go across the corner, but no, completely on his own. That's a very bizarre accident, I have to say, but everybody avoided him. It did cause a chain reaction a little bit further down, but at the end of lap 1, it's Benny Simonsen who's picking up from where he left off at the Hockenheim, now leading here once again with Peter right behind him, and I'm afraid there's another accident out of turn 1 here on lap 2.
Yeah, it's Daniele Camilleri. As let's see what's happened to the driver of the number 3 car. This is coming down the pit straight, then in towards turn number 1, in and amongst the gaggle of cars, I would say, trying to find a lane, well, ahead of all of them for now. Does she get tagged from behind? No! But big incident behind the driver of the 3 there. But I'll have to try and wind that back to see exactly what happened there, because my word, that was a huge, huge smash.
It was indeed. Let's see, a car comes steaming in. I think the grey car here, or the darker red one, and yeah, just going in a little bit too hot. Simone Zamolo into turn one just a little bit too quickly, and another car collects him. Dear oh dear, there's an absolute collection of different pieces of Skip Barber down there at turn one, I'm afraid, and lots of suspension parts strewn across the road as well, so he just goes a little bit too deep under brakes, misjudges it ever so slightly, and the 251 just clips the car, hits the grey one into a bit of a spin. Zamolo then gets turned around once again, and I think that they actually got away with damage, whoever that was who tipped him into a spin. But yeah, we're getting another pass for the lead here. Keita trying to go for it round the outside at turn one. Oh my god, that was close. He tried to go for it at lap one. It didn't quite work out. He tried again on lap three. Still not working out. Simonson holding on to the lead for now.
Yep, here's the ride on boards then with Philippe Lebert, who currently resides in that third spot. He's watching everything that's going on ahead of him right now between Simonson and Keita. Of course, these guys, no strangers to each other out there on circuit, let's be sure, but looking to the inside for the left then. Keita down the inside of Benny Simonson. Can he find some success here? They'll go wheel to wheel through the middle sector of the lap. Now looking for this big swing in to the right here onto the back straight. Let's see if Keita can carry the momentum through. Doesn't look like it for now, but he still managed to maintain an overlap here on this drag race in towards the final sector. Now he starts to gain some ground, but it's still the outside line for the next turn. Let's see if he can hang it out there. The answer's no, there's contact behind.
Lebert just got hit there, and I think he might have lost his rear wing. It's just at a jaunty angle there. He has still got it, but it's Ben didn't quite see who hit him there, but there can only be one guilty culprit, because there's going to be a broken front wing somewhere around there in this group. It's what happens though when we've got this pack racing at such a tight and twisty circuit like Long Beach. It's bound to happen. You see Lebert currently third in this train, and a battle going on behind for fourth. The car in fourth just goes way too deep into that corner and gets caught on the wall actually. I don't know quite who that was, but certainly lost a load of positions himself. Lebert looks like he's got away with one there.
Yeah, it does seem to be the case. The aero not really that important on this car, especially at this circuit. You're not even going fast enough to really generate any downforce with those wings on these cars. So it's I think it's probably going to be a non-issue. It might affect the balance a little bit, especially if it drops off the car so the weight shifts. But you can see how close these cars are getting to the wall though. A couple of bits of sparks being flung up because of the rims banging on the concrete, but now down the inside is Benny Simonson looking to try and get this race lead back away from Sam Keita. Now it's Philip Hammer in third place. They make contact, the two race leaders, Sam Keita and Benny Simonson, and looks like damage there for Benny Simonson. The floor's dragging on the asphalt.
Oh dear, the two just seem to meet in the middle on the run between those couple of corners there, and they just came into contact, really unnecessary contact I have to say, from both of them. Let's take another look and see who, if anybody, was at fault for this one, but I feel like Simonson squeezed Keita more than he needed to at this point. This is a good angle to show it. He's just turning straight still. You need to pull to the right-hand side as we're looking at the left-hand side of the road to open up the radius for that corner, but Simonson wanted to squeeze Keita as much as possible. Keita wasn't having any of it. He got physical and went into the side of Simonson, and I'm afraid Simonson's come off worse, and he's got damage in this race. He's in the pit lane right now.
Yeah, he is. So gonna have to take that fast repair. Remember, they do get one, but just because one driver's out of the battle for the race lead doesn't mean it can't continue, as Hammer was looking to the outside through turn one there. Keita has to be careful with that wall on the right-hand side, though. A couple of times already he's gotten so close to banging it with his rear right wheel as he's sliding out that I'm getting scared that at some point he's going to take a little bit too much out of that corner, and that right rear wheel is going to go bye-bye.
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting so caught up in this race that we're already nearly at the end of it. This is the penultimate lap already of this race. It's absolutely unbelievable. It's absolutely flown by. Sam Keita still leading though from Philip Hammer and Anthony Catt in the background as well, just watching on, hoping for any kind of incident in front of him so that he can pick up the pieces and sweep through for a victory. Let's not forget that Keita and Hammer both came into and Catt, to be fair, they're all in this championship fight. They're all separated by 30 points between them. They're in second, fourth and fifth at the moment, so some good points here would be very useful indeed.
Yeah, it really would be. Here's the onboard with Anthony Catt. You can see the two leaders ahead of him. You can see the race win just a little further down the road. Let's see if he's able he's able to put anything together on this final lap to try and get both of them done. I've seen it before, especially in these cars, but maybe due to the track being the way it is, it's a little bit more impossible here at Long Beach. But here they come then across the line for the start of the final lap of this sprint race. And now Philipp Hammer, he has a very good run here down in towards turn number 1. He's able to get himself alongside here, but can he get himself past? That's been the problem for a lot of drivers in second place coming into this exact same portion of the track. He's not able to get himself clear and alongside. And now into the fountain section, no chance of going too wide through here. You just have to wait and bide your time for later on in the lap.
Now, what I did see through those final couple of corners, through turn 10, I saw Hammer just have a quick look to the right-hand side, as if to kind of test himself out for maybe a dive at the final corner. Is there going to be a cheeky one right at the very end of this race? I feel like he's going to try something at some point. He's not just going to rest on his laurels here and stay in second place. He's going to go for this, and Kita has got to be ready for it. I just felt like he was just feeling that little move out in the final couple of corners on the penultimate lap. So maybe in the final lap there's going to be a big shot down the inside at the very end here.
Possibly, you know, that final corner is always a possibility. You can just go for the absolute send down the inside, but into the final sector, Hammer's not close enough just yet, gets the back end out, coming through the right there. They're all both driving off the wheels off of these things, and now they'll head into the final corner. A bit of lap traffic ahead might be just a distraction at this point, but Sam Kita comes out in the final corner. He has a clear run now to the checkered flag, and it's not too far before he can do so and take the sprint race win here at Long Beach in the 2K Skip Barber World Cup. Philipp Hammer on the podium with Anthony Cat in third as well. What a fantastic event. Battle's not done, by the way. There's a side-by-side action before P8 coming across the line between Loris Amadio and Joshua Dancy. And then looking further back to those runners that are on the tail end of the field. No changes back here, I don't think. But yeah, my word, that was a bit of a roller coaster of a race.
It was an absolute roller coaster, and very, very enjoyable as well. It was chaotic at the start and in the middle and nearly at the end as well, but it was a beautiful action all the way through. Thoroughly enjoyable to watch from a spectator's point of view. I guess there's going to be some very aggrieved drivers, though, looking to make amends in this second race, but Sam Kita took the victory by just under 4/10 of a second at the end.
Yep, he did. Then Philipp Hammer, then Anthony Cat. Those are your podium runners in the sprint race. But Philippe Lebert in P4, Remco Pleasure P5, you've got Brandon Hawk in P6, Daniele Fogarini P7, Loris Amadio P8, Joshua Dancy and Chris McGowan round out the top 10. Those drivers that are currently on screen, those drivers will be reversed for the start of the feature event here, the second race. So Chris McGowan will be your pole position sitter with Joshua Dancy on the front row as well. Then the second row will be Loris Amadio and Daniele Fogarini, and so on and so forth. Let's have a look at the rest of the results, though. Giuseppe Tellini and Efrem Pozzati bring things down to P12. Maciejinski P13. Mark Sierra, who was one of the instigators of that major contact that we saw into turn 3 on the first lap there. He still has managed to come across the line in P14. Benny Simonson P15, Ronan Griffin P16, Speziale P17. But we do have to go through this rather quickly because we then need to show the starting grid for race number 2, because it doesn't give you a lot of time here in iRacing to go through all of this. So Chris McGowan, Joshua Dancy, Loris Amadio, Daniele Fogarini, front 2 rows, Hawkin and Pleasure row number 3. And then you can see cycling things down to P10 there. So that's the reverse that I was talking about. Everyone else is in the order that they finished at the end of race number 1. So there we go, quickly going through. Soon we'll be racing here in just a couple of moments' time. We'll get ourselves our cameras set. We're ready and raring to go then for race number 2 here. This is the feature event. This is the quote-unquote endurance race for these cars with that pit stop window in effect as well. We're just about to go 22 laps of racing here at Long Beach, and here we go. Green flag is out. We're racing once again here, and let's see if we're able to get through the first sector okay this time around. But here we go, neck and neck. P1, P2. Luis Amadio also has a run down in towards turn number 1 as well. Will we see 3 wide for the race lead in the early stages here in the feature event? The guy in the middle backs out. That was Chris McGowan. And now Joshua Dancy swings by into the race lead. And now this was the trouble spot last time. Is everyone through unscathed coming through the fountain section? I believe so for the vast majority of front runners, but I see some problems on my timing screen at the back.
It's always a tricky section to go through, and you're almost never going to get through there unscathed, especially if you're at the back. That's why these guys were trying so hard to qualify at the front, and these guys with the reverse grid have managed to get themselves out of all of the problems. It seems that the top, as the leader goes wide, Dancy goes wide and slides. Amadio looks like he's going to try and take the lead.
Yep, here we go. He's looking to the outside, looking for that cut back off the corner to gain the momentum, but Dancy just swings through and has really stamped his authority on that position. That could have gone very, very badly for Dancy indeed, but able to maintain the race lead, able to call the shots of the race from the front. Let's cycle things back because there's bits of side-by-side action going on down here. There's Sam Keaton, there's Anthony Catt, so a couple of your strong runners in this field scrapping for those positions just inside of the top 10, and well, those guys are the guys that caught the bad end of the reverse grid, so they want to be making their way forward as fast as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. The top 19 or so did make it through more or less unscathed. I'm sure there are a few bent wings here and there because it did get a little bit physical through the fountain section for the first time, but for the most part it was a cleaner start than we saw in the sprint race, but this is a longer race for these guys to settle into. Not much time for these guys though to cool off between the sprint race and the feature race. You know, if you're aggrieved at something that might have happened in the sprint race, then that's still going to come to the fore in the feature race, I would argue, but that was going on further down. Benny Simonson's made a fantastic start here. He started 15th and he's already into 9th.
Yeah, here's the battle for 8th. Anthony Catt almost hits the wall on the outside there, and the compromise line through the next right-hander gives Simonson another opportunity, and he'll take those all day long, just as the slightest of overlaps here into the next braking zone. Nothing that he can really work with here, but he can continue to try on the outside there. Sam Keaton is here waiting in the wings as well, right behind Simonson. Remember, these two came together at the first. Oh no! That's a big instant. Catt in the wall, and a good couple of drivers involved as well. Keaton's in it, Hammer's in it. Lots of the front runners from race 1.
Lots of those championship contenders as well who are really looking for a good race. It's a classic Long Beach stack-up, I'm afraid. Let's try and take another look at what happened here and try and piece together. The car on the outside, I think, just goes a little bit too wide, gets the rear left corner snagged on the tyre barrier. You can see they're tipped into the wall, and another 3 cars collected. You can see a great job by everybody else, by the way, coming out of the final corner there to avoid everything. Here we're going to get an on-board view with Philip Hammer. He's going to have nowhere to go here as the 2 cars in front, the blue car's going to get snagged on the wall, spin out in front of the car in front of us, and we're just going to get collected into it. Absolutely nothing you can do in that situation.
Yeah, you see so many drivers behind just having to take wild avoiding action there in that one. That was crazy stuff. I'm surprised that no one else got collected in that coming up on it. So great job for everyone involved to try and get around what was basically a partial track blockage there. We might have had to get the virtual red flags out to clean that one up if there was any more blocked. But yeah, my words. That is crazy stuff, and you quite rightfully called it at the time, Ewan. That's a lot of the championship contenders having major problems here at the end of lap number 2. But we're on lap number 3 now. Loris Amadio leads this race from Joshua Dancy, from Chris McGowan. So those guys that have benefited off of the reverse grid, well, everything happened behind them, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. They were able to watch the chaos in their rearview mirror and think, well, I'm glad I'm not in that, because it was very messy when it got down to it a little bit earlier on, when you know, a little bit further back in the field, shall I say. So yeah, basically the only championship contenders, or the real championship front runners that I can see got through that is Philippe Lebert, and he's basically the only one that I can see, even inside the top 10 in the championship. Though I can't really see anybody else who's towards the pointy end at the moment, who is also involved in the championship. So he's done a fantastic job to get himself through the chaos here today. But now they're going to settle on trying to get at least a race win out of this one and try and battle for the race win. At the moment, Amadeo and Dancy are kind of running away with this because a battle for third is developing with Chris McGowan, Daniele Fognari and the rest along behind. It's all stacking up. There's about 6 cars here, and when you're in a battle like this, it can be difficult to catch cars in front, especially when they're working together quite nicely, as Amadeo and Dancy are doing right now.
Careful with the walls. I'm always so scared. Like I just kind of wince slightly every time these cars like get any of their wheels close to the wall there. Here's a little battle though. Simonson and Lebert. Simonson just about gets himself through for P7 there on the driver of the number 2, and that was a pretty simple move, all things considered. Oh, yeah, you don't want to be doing that too many times.
No, he did it. He was very, very close to doing it on last lap, actually. I winched myself, actually, coming through that corner. It was quite close through turn 8, but Lebert is going to say thank you very much and get straight back through again into 7th place, with Simonson just kissing the wall on the outside. It was a glancing blow. Unfortunately, he hasn't picked up any damage from what I can see, but he doesn't want to do that many more times. There's only so many times you're going to get away with that, and I would argue that 1 or 2 you'd be lucky to not get damage. After that point, you really are into dangerous territory.
You really are, but remember, in this race, and of course in race number 1 technically as well, you do get that 1 fast repair to use, and you do have to come down in for a stop anyway. So if you do have a bit of damage that needs fixing in this first portion of the race, then you can come down and get it repaired for free. Here comes Fogarini and Chris McGowan. Fogarini through there up into P number 3 through turn 1 and 2. Fantastic move there from the driver of the 202. And let's take another look at it, shall we?
Yeah, let's have another look, why not, at this move. Seems like a pretty good, simple pass down the inside into turn 1. Slipstream in full effect coming around the first turn along the pit straight and straight down the inside. Not really too much of an argument, really, about this one. Although he did try to stick it around the outside for a moment, but I think these guys starting to realise that falling into line at that point is probably the best idea, especially with the amount of laps we still have to go here. So yeah, Fogarini getting through into 3rd place. They all stack up behind though. It's still a 6-car train, and you know, McGowan, Hawkins, Pleasure, Lebert, Simonson all still in there, and it looks like Hawkins trying to go down the inside into turn 9 right now.
Yeah, he is. He's looking for it, somehow able to keep himself in contention. No overlap though for the final couple of corners. Maybe he can go for the absolute send down the inside. I think that's what Philippe Lebert has done. There's contact there. Pleasure in the wall. And Simonson caught a piece of that as well, as that's always the danger, going for the dive into the final corner. And look at how long the 117 has to wait to let everyone go back through. Oh, almost rejoins in the path of Zamolo there, but yeah, that's always the danger, making a move at the final corner here. Good luck making it work is all I'm going to say.
It's so tight to make it work through there, and the danger is if you're trying to race with a car side by side, you brake a little bit too late and you actually go into the car in front of that, and I think that's what happened here with Lebert spattling with Simonson. It's actually Simonson that gets into the back of him, excuse me. So you know, you're so engrossed in that battle side by side with the car alongside you. You try not to hit them, and obviously you're trying to just have your own battle at this point, but you've got to focus on the cars in front as well. You've got to monitor them as well and try not to brake a little bit too late. That's exactly what Simonson just did, I'm afraid, though, getting into the back of Pleasure and hitting him again. Actually, he thought the car was going to spin to the outside, picked up a little bit of front wing damage there, so Simonson may well get that little bit repaired in the pit stop. But yeah, not too bad in terms of damage. He has lost the draft to these 4 though. Yeah,
Chris McGowan, well, having a car right up his gearbox there. Brandon Hawkins really trying to apply the pressure. Now Philippe Lebert is trying to do the same to him as well in the very back of this train, sitting in P6 at the moment. Here's the onboard here from Lebert. No dives this time around into the final corner. I think they've learned their lesson with regards to that. But Philippe Lebert has now basically triple toe in terms of the slipstream coming down the pit straight here. So going to be getting a whole bunch of speed here. But whether or not it's going to be enough to be able to make a move into towards turn number 1, it's probably not, since there's still some decent separation in the train. But, whoa, early on the brakes, and look at the send. Philippe Lebert goes for the 2-for-1 special into turn 1. Not quite able to get both of them, but, I mean, he almost redeemed his code there.
I'm not entirely convinced that was intentional, but it was very, very impressive. Late on the brakes, did great avoiding action as well, because I was sure he was going to go straight into the back of the car in front, but he did just about duck out from the slipstream in time, braking very, very late indeed, and nearly got 2 for the price of 1. It's easily through on the 99, as it may have broken a little bit early, but Lebert was certainly committed on the brakes there. Didn't quite have the speed and the momentum to go through on 2 cars, but very, very spectacular nevertheless.
Simonson's back in battles. Like, no matter what point in the race he is at this point, he's always just been found in a wheel-to-wheel battle with someone out there. This time it's Brandon Hawkin. He's been able to gain that position. 6th place at the moment. But we've had some fantastic fighting so far, perhaps a little bit more than I expected here for this circuit, which is absolutely wonderful to see. And now Simonson, next driver on his list is Chris McGowan, just ahead of him. But again, has to be a little patient here. We're still in the early stages of the race, technically. And oh, McGowan having to dive down towards pit lane.
That's after lap 7. That's a lap earlier than our pit window. So a little bit concerned about if he's make that or not. But we'll wait and see. It seems scheduled to me. It's a very, very long pit lane here, though, as you can see right now on the pit limiter. And you don't want to be making any more stops than you absolutely have to, because it really, really does hurt you around this circuit. He stops in his box. It seems all normal to me at the moment, just getting a little bit of fuel, and he'll be on his way in a few moments' time. So he pitted a little bit outside of our pit stop window, but clearly wants to get out of the crazy train that we've just seen, those 5 cars. He doesn't want to be a part of it anymore, trying to get himself in front.
Yeah, I think that's the objective there for Chris McGowan. There were a couple of other drivers a little bit more towards the back that also came down in at the same time. What's going on here then? Because Fogarini's just gone well out of the way of Benny Simonson and Philippe Lebert there. And now Simonson looking down the inside of Lebert. This is the battle for P3 coming through onto the back straight. Again, getting worryingly close to the tyre barrier on the outside there. Now, what's the situation going to be into the final sector then? Because Benny Simonson has the inside initially. Can he commit to it? Can he get clear? I think he might be able to, but no, there's the inside still open for the Philippe. And now he'll be able to wheel it on the inside here and try and take this big wide arc to get the speed on the pit straight here. But has Benny Simonson parked the bus on the apex? Well, we couldn't quite tell from that angle, but they're still close.
They are side by side across the line right now. Simonson's going to have the inside line with Lebert going through on the outside. They might not even be side by side by the time they get to the corner here. They go along the curve through the front straight. Simonson's still holding on to the inside line. He's still got there, and he's actually in front again. He gets his nose in front. Lebert forced to brake early and go for a cutback again for the 2nd corner in a row. Simonson goes in very deep. He kisses the wall on the right-hand side as well. But luckily, he's got away with it again somehow, and he's into 3rd position from 15th where he started in this race. It's been a very, very impressive drive from him.
Yeah, it has been an incredible drive. There's no other word for it. Let's get the positions gained graphic. That's not the one. Positions gained graphic on the scoring tower there. Yeah, Benny Simonson up 12 spots compared to where he started. Speziali's up 10 as well, so good race from the driver of the 251. Zingretti's also up 10 positions as well. Careful with the wall, boys. Come on. You've been doing 9 laps of this, not even including race 1. You should know where the track limits are at this point.
Yeah, they should indeed, but it won't stop them from pushing the limits to the absolute limit, and sometimes over them as well, as we saw from Lebert. That was quite a hard hit, actually. I'm a little bit surprised he's got away with that, because these cars are a little bit fragile from time to time. Yeah, they're not designed for heavy hits, certainly. And Lebert seemed to have got away with that one. That kiss on the wall coming through turn 8, so he's got away for now. But just look at the pace of Simonson at the moment. It's just fantastic. 9/10 of a second he's pulled on Lebert. Let's not forget, this time last lap, they were side by side heading into the corner. And now Simonson has just pulled away from everybody. He's using his absolute brute force almost to pull himself away from this group. I doubt he can do anything about the leaders at just under 8 seconds away. He's a long way away, but with 13 laps to go, you never know.
Smart pit stop strategy might make it work, but we'll have to see. Yeah, you're right, 8 seconds at the moment, but remember, it was a 1:32.361 for Benny Simonson that last lap. the last lap for the race leader was a 1:32.806, so that's more than 0.4 of a second faster on that last lap was Benny Simonsen. So, and with the laps that we have remaining, 12 laps, and also that margin, that delta every single lap, certainly very, very possible, but he just needs to string these laps together to make that work and for there to be no response from the guys ahead.
You can see the way he's stringing the group out behind him. We've seen so far in this race, in both of the races, groups very tightly packed together, sometimes really, really packed and too close for comfort into turn 9 on some occasions. But Simonson's just pulling this group apart completely on his own. Interesting to note, by the way, down the order, McGowan is out of the race. We saw him pitting early at the end of lap 7 to try and make what I thought was an alternate strategy work in this one. But iGraphic, they're showing that he's actually out of the race, which is a real shame to see for him. I was interested to see how that strategy will work out, but unfortunately we'll never know.
Yeah, not entirely sure what has happened there to Chris McGowan. I wonder if we can use our fancy new overlay features to try and find exactly where he went wrong. So I'm going to do that right now, in fact. So let's have a look. So this is his last reported position out on track. We'll have to wait this. We have to let this run through a little bit to see what's happened to Chris McGowan. But let's see. So it's fine through the second to last corner. Oh, not second last corner. The corner before the back straight. And it might be an issue coming into the final couple of corners here.
Yeah, let's watch along. Let's hope it's not a disconnection, because that is always possible. Gets it very wrong into turn 9, into the wall. And I'm afraid that is the second time he's been in the wall in this race, and he calls it a day just there. Just gets it a little bit wrong going in. He broke a little bit too late. You do kind of want to swing the rear out going into these corners. You do kind of slide the car through a little bit more than you would in other cars, but yeah, not that much, and you certainly don't want to break that late either. Unfortunately, he's out of the race now.
Yeah, super unfortunate, but if there's going to be one track where those sorts of solo car incidents happen, it's going to be this one, because the margin for error is just so small that if you step a foot out of line, if you just push a little bit wider than you would usually on exit, well, sometimes you don't have the space to do that. You don't have the runoff. I mean, even at worst, there would be grass or gravel that you could go into, but not so here at a street circuit such as this. But Philippe Lebert is down on towards the pit lane as the first sort of major runner to make a pit stop here, apart from Chris McGowan earlier.
Yeah, I'm slightly surprised everybody's left it so late. It's lap 11 at the moment. Our pit window, from what we suspected at the start of the day, ends this lap, and that surely means everybody's going to be pitting on this lap. I mean, if you want to get in front of the guys around you, you know, people like Speziale and Forgerini at the moment, and maybe not Simonson actually, because he's driving away from everybody, but you know, if you're stuck in behind cars, why not pit a lap earlier or something? Do something a little bit different, because if you just follow the car in front, then it's going to be very, very difficult to beat them in this race. So I'm very surprised that he's the only one pitting on lap 11.
It's kind of the opposite sort of philosophy coming into this race compared to what we've seen usually, because usually in these cars you kind of want to come down as a group, because then you know you have drafting partners and some such coming out of the pit lane for your outlaps. But here, maybe, you know, I would have said, or I would have thought it would have been a little bit different, because the effect of the draft is not too major. Of course, you have the big run down into turn 1, but apart from that, you're kind of not even relying on any sort of slipstream for the rest of the lap. So, yeah, that is an interesting one, but I think a lot of drivers are kind of just a little bit scared to make a pit stop here. It might just be that they just don't want to get caught and cycled out into traffic more than anything else, but we do have the driver of Benny Simonsen come down on towards the pit lane. There he is, followed by Brandon Hawkin and followed by Mark Sierra as well.
Yeah, a lot of the front runners coming in, apart from the two leaders, of course. Amadeo and Dancy stay out for the moment, but interesting to see where Lebert comes out in relation to this one here, Simonsen. Is he going to get anywhere near to him? I would doubt it, because the gap was fairly large as as Lebert came in. The gap was quite big, so I'll be surprised if he doesn't just slot himself in behind Simonsen and in front of Hawkin at the moment. There he is coming down the front straight round. Now he's about to cut the beam for the end of lap 12. And we'll take a look at the right-hand side here in a few moments' time to see where Simonsen is. He's already left the pit lane and on the exit road. There's Hawkin on the right-hand side, so it looks like Lebert's going to get him, possibly. It does stick out quite a long way, and it's quite a long way round that pit exit, so Oh God, that was close as well. Hawkin just about keeps it out of the barriers, but Leibert stays exactly where he started this pit stop cycle.
Yeah, so not too bad, not amazing, but just a routine pit stop there for Philippe Leibert. He remains about 4.2 seconds. Oh, that's not a routine corner though, as that might give a decent run here to Brandon Hawkin though. He's just a little bit too far back there in that situation. Meanwhile, back towards the race lead though, because both of the cars in P1, P2 have decided that they want to come down in and take their scheduled stops now. So if Speciale stays out, then Speciale will maintain, well, get through to the race lead, but no, they'll come down in as well. Same with Fogorini, and I think pretty much the rest of everyone's going to come down in on this lap now. So what have the outlaps been like though for Benny Simonsen? It's sometimes quite hard to tell here in iRacing, but we will know once he comes out of the final corner here and where he comes out in relation to those two cars in the leads that came down in just now.
The gap was about 6 seconds as this pit stop cycle commenced. From what I remember anyway, it was about 6 seconds. So here's Amadeo and Dancy. It looks like Simonson's flying at the moment. He's coming past everybody, and we'll be able to see him in the background. There he is, the white car in the background. That is Simonson closing on both of these guys. He's going to be on the back of them. He's going to be on the back of them. What a fantastic pit stop cycle it's been from the race winner at Hockenheim. Looks like he's in very much the conversation for another race win at Long Beach.
I'm rubbing my hands together now because we certainly have a race on here. Simonson seems to be obviously so much faster than the guys ahead in clear air, but it's one thing to be fast in clear air. It's another complete other situation when you're in the dirty air behind and trying to get past someone. Of course, these cars don't throw up much dirty air, but it's more of a psychological dirty air more than anything. You know, you just kind of sometimes get trapped behind another car and you can't find any way through. So that might be the situation that Simonson has to deal with. It's going to have to require a huge defensive effort from both Amadeo and Dancy to hold on to their positions here.
Yeah, you can see by the way he's catching them that he's definitely got the pace over them, and that is going to make it difficult for them to defend. The thing that's playing into Simonson's hands right now as well is the fact that Dancy and Amadeo are not quite as close as they were as they came into the pit lane. Dancy looks like he's had a slightly slower pit stop here, and Amadeo has been able to pull a little bit of a gap. The 1.2 seconds at the moment. Not sure it's enough for a distant tow, but it's not quite as glaring as it was a little bit earlier on. Dancy was right into the back of Amadeo, and Amadeo was right on the back of Dancy. They were kind of drafting off of each other and helping each other along. That's not really the case anymore. So the fact that they're not in a group means that Simonson can kind of pick them off one by one, and that's a lot easier to do than if they're in pairs or bigger.
I have some news for you though. Benny Simonson had the shortest stop time of anyone in terms of lane time. Of course, his we can pull up the pit stop times right now, but you can see the pit box time is slightly bugged there on our overlays. But the pit lane time is shorter than everyone else there, so I would assume that's also fastest stationary time on the pit lane as well. So the last time I commented about that, Ewan, was at Imola with another driver, and kind of run out of fuel just before the line. Oh, Dancy into the wall.
He is indeed. He's got a terrible run going down the back straight right now. Simonson not quite close enough for a move, but he will have seen that, and now he will really start to apply the pressure. He will know that Dancy is vulnerable, that if he really wants to get through as efficiently as possible, then he needs to strike in the next lap or so.
Yep, here we go. Simonson's the shark that smells the blood in the water now, as Dancy just has to hold on with perhaps an injured car. Simonson following so tightly coming out of the final corner. He'll be able to sit inside that slipstream as much as he wants on the way down in towards turn one. You can see now the effect really starts to become obvious. Now he looks to the driver's left-hand side to be able to get this pass done. Is it for any significant amount by Dancy? I don't think it is. He's going to let Simonson go, so I think that damage might be a little bit more than we suspected there for Josh's car, because otherwise he would have fought that a little bit harder.
Yeah, quite possibly. He has lost a second to Amadeo, and a little bit more than that at this point, so maybe that car is now walking wounded a little bit, but third place for him would still be a fantastic result, and I think he'd be very pleased with it as we go back to a battle for sixth place between Andrea Speziali and all his mates. Here he is in the back at 3 cars battling through the fountain section, a bit of a push from Zamolo into the back of Sierra, I think that was there. Yeah, it's and another guy joining the party as well, Remco Plazier, who we saw going for a spin at the hairpin, if you remember, about 10 laps ago. He's recovered and he's all the way back inside the top 10 again. He's staring at maybe a top 6 as well. What a great recovery that would be.
Yeah, looking fantastic at the moment. I mean, it's just Long Beach things. If you think you're out and you think you've lost too much time compared to everyone else, then don't give up, because someone can hit the wall, someone can cause a huge amount of damage to their car very, very quickly here, and all of a sudden you're back in the thick of things. So that's the attitude that you have to take into these races. It's really a race of attrition, like you mentioned in the pre-show. But we are getting in towards the deeper end of the race now. Lap 16, or rather crossing over into lap 17 of 22 here. So battle for P6 still, or rather P7 at the moment, because P6 is starting to get away a little bit. Still very much up for grabs at the moment. Of course, we are still tracking Benny Simonson's journey up towards the race lead. He currently resides about 1.5 seconds behind Amadeo at the moment, and still continuing to make progress. But yeah, it's going to be the case, at least for Simonson in the race lead. Is it going to be just getting there a lap or so before the checkered flag, or is he going to have the opportunity a little bit too late and would be hoping that he had one more lap?
Well, yeah, his pace certainly has stalled out, unless Amadeo has really turned the pace on in the last few moments, which I don't think has happened. Simonson's not quite catching as much as he was before. Well, oh, God, they're close. Oh! Simonson's in the wall. Oh, coming out of turn 8. He's pushing so hard through the corners. The gap grows to over 1 second and a half right now. Let's take another look at that replay coming through turn 9. It's such a committed corner, and you really need to take every single millimetre of tarmac. He's taken a little bit too much. This is the left-hander just preceding that, and you can see how much he's bringing it out to the wall there as well. Here is turn 9 that we're talking about, though. Absolutely throws it in, gets as close as he can to the wall on the right-hand side, and then a little bit too close for comfort on the left-hand side. He's definitely pushing hard.
Yeah, he's driving the wheels off of that thing, trying to catch up this gap, but it hasn't changed all that much from the previous lap. Now still remains at 1.5 seconds, and we have to see if Benny Simonson has any damage to that car. He banged those wheels quite vigorously up against the wall, so once we get to a straight bit here, I'll have to see if he's having to put some steering input in to keep it in a straight line here, which will be coming up in just a couple of moments. But yeah, we will just have to see. I think he's got the car underneath him once again now, but yeah, it's just those little things that can mean that, you know, you go at 0.5 of a second slower because of damage. It looks like the steering tracking is fine for Simonson, so I think he's just about gotten away with one there.
Yeah, he's very lucky. How many times have we seen him hit the wall in this race? I'm starting to lose count how many he's actually hit the wall and goes through here again, skidding on the floor. He's dragging. He is dragging just a little bit at the moment. Now, suspension, yeah, clearly dragging very visibly right now. So Amadeo is going to be let free now. Simonson is dropping back. He's going to drop back, at least if he's not already. So I think it's just one too many hits on the wall here. I was just saying that, you know, we've seen him hit the wall a good 4 or 5 times now, and surely his luck was going to run out at some point. Finally, it looks like it has. His car slightly dragging on the floor, and it looks like that might be the nail in the coffin for him. He might not be able to get to Amadeo now. We can't question his, you know, commitment to this, though. He really is pushing very hard. There's no question about that, but does he have the car speed in that right now?
Yeah, the car looks fine in terms of dragging coming down the pit straight. It's just the back straight where maybe it's a little bit bumpier. He's having a problem, and another big shot to the right-hand side of the car. Well, if it wasn't damaged already, he surely is now.
He's got to be damaged. We were on board with him, and the steering still looked straight, somewhat remarkably. You'd expect it to be at least a few degrees out of whack by this point, but let's take another look from the aerial view of Benny Simonson trying to win his second race in the 2K World Cup for 2021. It looks like he's just trying a little bit too hard at this point. He goes in, he's actually pretty good on the brakes. He just pushes it, gets on the throttle a little bit too early through the corner, gets out onto the outside line through the left-hander and just kisses the wall with the right-hand side. We're going to see the impact here on board, and there it is. Bit more damage you have to expect, and maybe a bit more dragging on the floor now as well.
Yeah, we'll have to see as we'll get ourselves the view of the race leader. There is Luis Amadeo, who's, he's had to do his best to try and run his consistent laps at the very front. It's obviously he is as fast under normal circumstances than Benny Simonsen, but he's done a good job to keep himself clean at the moment. There has been a couple of tenths of a second lost on this lap though, so I don't think Benny Simonsen's down and out just yet. I don't know what the engineers have made Benny Simonsen's car out of, but surely it's not up to regulation.
No, absolutely not. It's really able to survive a lot of hits so far. Let's see, through turn one, is he going to keep it nice and clean this time? He's not learnt his lesson because he's still getting so close, but he has just about kept it within the boundaries of this circuit. Also, you mentioned about fuel not so long ago, referencing the second Imola race, where we saw Brian Lockwood win in the very final straight of that race. An absolutely fantastic finish to that race with the leader running out of fuel. Are we going to see a similar situation for Simonsen here? I thought that we might do, because he was slowing down a little bit, but I realise now that it might just be damage. How much fuel saving did he do in that first stint though? Let's remember he was around a lot of cars, so I imagine he did a fair amount of lifting off.
Yeah, possibly. Again, I don't know how Simonsen's going as fast as he is right now, considering how many big slaps he's had with the wall. How is he still keeping on pace with the leader at least, and perhaps gaining a little bit still at this point? And now this is where Luis Amadeo starts to get a little bit worried, because now Simonsen's just that little bit closer. Now we can start feeling the effects here of the slipstream. It does extend quite far back here in these Skip Barber cars, perhaps the furthest back of really any car on the iRacing service, if I remember correctly. It goes back to like a second and a half here. So Benny Simonsen's now within 8 tenths, certainly feeling the effects now and starting to reel the race leader in. We've got 2 to go.
We have indeed 2 very nerve-wracking laps to go here for Amadeo, who's going to be watching his mirrors intently as he goes around the Long Beach Street Circuit. Simonsen now really starting to apply the pressure. He seems to have just increased the pace here once again. Let's hope he doesn't push the limits too far though, because we've seen it before. He's been to the wall a fair amount of times. He's wide. Oh, he's in the wall again. He's in the wall again. For the umpteenth time in this race, he's in the wall again, and he's lost another few tenths.
Yeah, that might just be the few tenths that Amadeo needs, and you can see now there's more obvious damage to the front right suspension there. It's kind of bent in on the bottom side just a little bit, but somehow Simonsen's still able to wheel that car around. He isn't massively off the pace at this point, but that might just be just enough of a gap for Amadeo to use, and oh, he's slow.
He's clutching in.
It's
I
fuel.
felt him clutching in. It's fuel. He's very fuel limited. Is he out already? He can't be out already. I can still hear the engine, but he's clutching in from such a long way out, about halfway down that straight. He had the clutch in, trying to save fuel. He's trying to stay off the brakes as well to keep the momentum going. Simonsen is not going to win this race. He might not even finish on the podium. What heartbreak for him. It's been such a fantastic drive. He's been royally entertaining, but I'm afraid he's just pushed the limits too far on fuel.
Let's take a listen then.
Oh, he's in, yeah. Clutch is in.
That's all you need to know, everyone. That is a fuel problem for Benny Simonsen. Joshua Dancy is able to pass him into turn 1 to take P2. We saw it was a very short stop for Benny Simonsen, shortest of everyone out there, but it was a little too short. He knew he had to try and recover after the reverse grid and a couple of problems earlier on in the event, getting involved in problems that weren't his. But he's taking a little bit too much of a bite out of the cherry, and now he's been cycled all the way back. He's continuing to hemorrhage time here 4.5 seconds off the pace here, at least by my calculations. And there we go. There's Luis Amadio. Hopefully he doesn't have any fuel problems. I don't think he will, considering he went about 3 seconds more on his fuel stop than Joshua Dancy did. So I think he's going to be relatively okay. Although, is Dancy out as well?
Dancy's struggling, and Simonson has got through. Leibert's looking at the podium right now. He's closing right in the final few moments. Hawkins going to fancy his chances as well.
Dancy's out as well, so Philippe Leibert might be able to get in this position. He will, and now Hawkins also looking all over the back of him as well. He gets by on Dancy, and now both of them come out in the final corner here to take P3 and 4 respectively. I don't think they'll be able to get to Simonson by the time they get to the start-finish line. They won't, but there is your race winner. That briefly was Luis Amadio as he takes the tow back to pit lane. He doesn't want to hang around to celebrate his race win here today, but what a crazy, crazy event. That's insane. Look at Dancy just coasting across the line. He's just about made it, but in P6 when it could have been just that little bit more. Is anyone else having fuel problems out there at the moment? I don't think so, but I thought we weren't going to see a repeat of Imola.
Well, I did as well, but we were quite wrong in the end. It was a remarkable end to the race. I mean, if you ever wanted a view of how hard these guys are pushing to get those podium spaces, to get these wins, then that was it really. The risks they're taking on fuel is really quite remarkable. But a word on Luis Amadio really, because he's going to become our 8th different race winner in 9 races in the 2K, in 10 races in the 2K World Cup this season. It is another new race winner here this season. Just a remarkable season so far, and a remarkable drive from him as well to sustain that pressure from Simonson. I know it wouldn't have mattered in the end, but it was impressive nonetheless.
That was crazy. I'm not even mad that's how it finished, because that was just the next level of crazy to have happen in this race. Of course, we would have loved to see the grandstand P1 battle at the end, but I think I'll take that as we'll go over our final race results here from a crazy event at Long Beach. It's every single time. It seems like every single racing event here in the 2K Skip Barber World Cup, they find some way to surprise us. Luis Amadio, though, takes his first win of the season, 8 seconds ahead of Benny Simonson, who still, despite those fuel issues, still manages to come home a couple of seconds ahead of Philippe Leibert. So he takes P2 with Leibert in P3. Brandon Hawke in P4, George Betazinski P5, Joshua Dancy with similar fuel issues, who wasn't able to deal with it as well as Simonson was. He comes home in P6. Mark Sierra P7 with Lorenzo Zingretti P8, Daniele Fogarini P9, and Efrem Bazzati in P10. Giuseppe Cellini P11, Remco Plesger P12, Simone Zamolo P13, Philip Hammer in 14th here today with Anthony Catt in 15th, and Ronan Griffin in 16th will be the final car on the leading lap. So the first car of the cars of lap down, Daniele Carmarini, Andrea Speciale, Chris McGowan, and Sam Keita down to P20 there, and Alexis Fico out after a lap 1 problem there for the 201. So, there we go. Another round in the books, another double header in the books for the 2K Skip Barber World Cup 2021 season. We thought this race might be a little bit more of a struggle in terms of the battles out there on circuit than some other circuits that we've been to throughout the season. But again, it's another event that has really delivered. Maybe not so much in terms of the battling, but in terms of the stories going through it, and of course, yet more fuel dramas at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really, really entertaining from start to finish. You're right, we were a little bit fearful at the start that it wasn't going to be all that we'd hoped for, but it more than lived up to our expectations. Fantastic battling and drama all the way through. Great stories up and down the grid as well, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of stories and trials and tribulations from everybody throughout tonight's races. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed commentating this one. I'm just watching this one as a spectator. It's been absolutely fantastic. And yeah, the 2K World Cup delivers again. What more can we expect?
Yeah, every single race, like I said, every single race has been crazy so far this season. I think this is probably the racing that you want to watch here on Sunday evenings. You start off with, you know, Formula 1 in the afternoons on Sunday, and then you end with this. I think they probably give about as much excitement, although F1 today is probably a little bit more exciting. But there we go. I'll leave that to everyone else to try and decide. But we're currently waiting to see if there are any drivers that want to go and have an interview with us. But I don't think we'll be able to... well, we won't stall for them for long, let's just say that. But Ewan, this is your second ever RaceSpot broadcast, I believe. First time on a road course, which is probably more your calling compared to the oval that you did a couple of days ago. You enjoy it?
Oh yeah, absolutely, thoroughly enjoyed it. Not that I don't enjoy ovals as well, by the way, but yeah, road courses certainly are where I have most experience, and yeah, I've not seen many things similar to that. Certainly, it's been yeah, really enjoyable. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. Certainly, I hope everybody else has enjoyed it at home as much as we have calling it, because yeah, it was very entertaining, drama from start to finish. And yeah, this Long Beach circuit, a great addition to iRacing, fairly new. A couple of seasons ago, it was added, but these guys still getting used to it ever so slightly. But it doesn't get any less challenging as these guys continue to drive around it and get some more experience with it. Still pushing the boundaries, and that's what we love to see.
Pushing the boundaries, trying to push concrete walls out a couple of millimeters as well in some instances. But again, this is another crazy end to a 2K Skip Barber World Cup race. Of course, next time we'll be heading to a little bit of a different circuit. We'll be heading to, of course, Suzuka, which gives drivers a little bit more room for error, but still, it's one of these classic Grand Prix circuits where it's not a Tilkodrome where you have 15 miles of runoff off of every single corner. You step a foot out of line, you're out into grass, you're out into gravel, and your life will be more difficult from there. So I would say it's still a very tricky circuit with regards to track limits, but like I said at the start of the show, Suzuka is probably my most favorite track ever. So I'm super happy we're going there next time around. How about you?
Yeah, it's a pretty decent. I hate driving it, by the way, but to watch it, there's just too many corners and it's just falling off all the time for me. So it's not very enjoyable. But to watch a race around there, it is very good indeed. It has been tarmacked in a couple of places, but you're right. The main character, the real essence of the flavour and whatever from the core when it was first designed, it's still absolutely there, and you can still feel it. Certainly, it's a very challenging circuit. You know, Sector 1 going up the hill through the S's and 130R as well. Not going to be as challenging in these cars, you might be able to imagine, because we're not going at quite such high speeds, but the drafting opportunities around there are going to be very juicy indeed, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, the paving over of the exit of 130R is probably understandable, considering how many problems that has happened there in the past, shall we say. But I'm super excited for it as well. It's going to be a brilliant event, I think. We'll have to try and see how many cars can actually fit wide into 130R, as these cars will no doubt show us. I think we've had a maximum of about 5 wide so far this season at, I can't remember if it wasn't Hockenheim, but it was one of the other tracks towards the start of the season. I think it might have been Road Atlanta, in fact, our very first round. So yeah, we'll have to see there. But I get the feeling that we won't be able to get any driver interviews in because they haven't turned up. So I'll wrap up the broadcast here. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us for yet another 2K Skip Barber World Cup event. It is always a pleasure from everyone here at RaceSpotTV to bring you the coverage of this series, which has been with us since pretty much our very inception all those years ago, and it's continuing on for a very strong 2021 season here as well. So my name has been Connery Maddock. I've been joined by Ewan O'Leary, excuse me, over the course of this broadcast, and we'll see you for the next one at Suzuka in the not too distant future. Goodbye.